Alrighty then. Welcome in, guys. Glad to see those of you that made it. Sorry, it was such a long wait. I did change my ad settings a little bit. So the way that I set it up is that it is going to be like 3 minutes of ads, but it's only going to be 3 minutes of ads every hour as opposed to a minute and a half every 30 minutes. Just because every 30 minutes was just kind of annoying to me. So that's what I did. Just changed up the ad settings a little bit. Just so that way there's like a little less downtime. I mean, ultimately it's the same amount of downtime per hour, it's just less frequent. But you have to understand that every 30 minutes thing is also very annoying for me. Specifically because I have the thing set up to notify me that the ad break's going to happen 10 minutes before it starts. And that's just so that way the timer comes up at in a reasonable amount of time. Why is that off? Just this window. It looked just fine a couple minutes ago. But of course, there's nothing that OBS likes to do more than frustrate me, I guess. So, here we are. Just want to do a little like housekeeping overview with you guys for the week. Hey, welcome in. Glad to see you made it. Just to go over what we're going to be doing this week as far as the stream is concerned. So today I'm just doing some Dungeon Painter Studio stuff. I'm going to be designing some dungeon maps for my D&D party. Explaining what the fuck I'm planning on doing with them this weekend. Tomorrow, I'm going to be doing some illustration stuff where I'm going to be drawing up some designs for items I intend on giving them when they enter this dungeon to facilitate the dungeon's mechanics. And then Wednesday, I'm just going to do some general character design stuff. Just draw some characters, throw some sketches together because, I don't know, I guess I'm primarily an art streamer now. I don't really feel like playing games like I used to. I just don't have the energy for it, and just, frankly, I don't really have the interest a lot of the time unless I really feel up to it. Thursday, my plan is to do a new thing that I want to try and implement into the schedule if enough people are interested and willing, which is a draw with chat thing, where I'm going to, whenever I do a draw with chat, I'm going to take uh, the sketch suggestion reward that's down in the little chat thing, and I'm going to set the cost to 1 gold. And for 1 gold, anybody on those days can suggest things to draw. And the idea is that I'm basically just gonna draw whatever chat asks for however long the stream lasts. And then I think I'll cap it at like maybe 5 or 6 sketches for those days. And I'll probably set the cooldown for the draw suggestion to like once every 10 minutes. So that way I don't get 100 suggestions pouring in. I don't really think I have to worry about that realistically, but you know, just in case. And basically the idea will be we get some drawings together. I then sift through the sketches from the draw with chat sessions afterward and pick like the 4 that I think came out the best. And then I'm going to throw them up on Blue Sky and have people decide which one is going to get a full render. That'll be like a nice little fun thing to do with the community every week. And then Friday, I want to do some kind of gaming. I have no fucking clue what we're playing yet. I've got a couple games on the tray right now that we could play. You know, we could go back to Dishonored. We could start playing Undertale. Start playing Disgaea. We could also go back to Kingdom Hearts 2. Literally haven't decided. I could even just load up Genshin Impact and just fuck around for the day. Just depending on how I feel on Friday. So, you know, that's the plan for this week. And, you know, for anybody who doesn't know, I got news last week that yesterday was my last day at my job. My shift was consolidated and has been outsourced to an offshore consultancy. So I no longer have a job. So I'm going to be trying to stream full-time a little bit more. So, you know, if you feel like subscribing, go right ahead. I could definitely use the help. If you really want to be helpful, you know, I have a tip jar via Ko-fi. There's like tips you can give on Throne. I also have my commissions open. That is my preference, would be if people would just like do the commissions. Because frankly, I would much rather be working for the money than like just having people send me random cash. I do have like an unspoken agreement because I can't really put it on Ko-fi or Throne really, but you know, if you donate like $10, like $5 or more, I will do a little sketch for you. The sketch will be entirely based on like size of the donation. It's like if you donate $5, I basically do like little character icon sketches that I do on my commissions. I do one of those for you as like a thank you. I do the same thing, like if you do like a $10 or $15 commission, I'll do like a full body character portrait or like character illustration for you. Anything above that, you know, I'll just do bigger, more grand things as far as that's concerned, or like just talk to you about what you want. Also, if you subscribe to the channel, like if you actually like subscribe here on Twitch, I will draw one of the little like $5 things for you as like a thank you to anybody who subscribes. That's just like my way of giving back to the community. So if any of that sounds appealing, feel free. That said, you know, all of the preamble and, you know, life update nonsense out of the way. I'm trying to find a place to put my art showcase where it won't be in the way. There we go. That's fine. That's a better place for it. But today we're using Dungeon Painter Studio. This is the program I use to make maps for D&D. Dungeon Painter is really useful. It's pretty robust for like a $25 program on Steam. Generally speaking, what Dungeon Painter does, unless you make maps, it has like a template thing that you can use to import maps from a website called Donjon. You can like make custom art and add it if you don't like any of the pre-made assets that are in the program already. super cool. I actually added a couple today because I'm doing like a chessboard thing, and there's no floors that look like a chessboard. Back to this. Now the problem is, I tried to import a pattern that looked just like a chessboard, and I thought I could just like spread it over an area and just kind of resize it, and it would be fine. That did not work out very well. Everything looked terrible and pixelated. So now what I have to literally do for this in order to build this chessboard for this chess-themed dungeon is I imported 2 separate textures. I literally just went on Google and I downloaded a picture of a white marble tile and a picture of a black granite tile. And I have to build a chessboard square by square for the sake of this fucking dungeon. It is going to be great. Which means I actually also had to take time to figure out how many fucking squares were even on a chessboard, because I've never counted. And now I know it is a, 8x8 grid. Let me see. So, right now the party has entered a dungeon that involves... Basically, it's going to be this chess dungeon. They entered through a statue that appears like a black queen chess piece. So, what we're going to be doing with them in this case is the party is going to be... So these are going to be 3x3s. I have to make 64 of these fucking things. Surprised how accurate. I can't zoom out anymore, can I? Oh, I can. I can zoom out a little more. So, the idea for this is going to be that the party is going into this little dungeon, and as they traverse the dungeon, the idea is that each floor is going to be a kind of chess puzzle. Except the players are the pieces on the chessboard. When they enter into this first floor, my general plan is that the only things on the board in order to introduce the mechanics of the dungeon to the party are going to be the pawns for the enemy side. So it's going to be the players will be the white pieces, the enemy pawns will be the black pieces. And we're going to introduce this dungeon's mechanics by giving the party 2 pawns, because I have a 6-player party. So there's going to be 2 basically NPC pawns that are already there. And then there's going to be 8 of these little like caps on the ground, which are going to be called pawn caps. The party puts them on, and it basically allows them to behave as pawns on the board. But it creates restrictions for the players. Those restrictions being, they only get, unless it's their first time moving, they only have a 5-foot move speed, which is going to be 1 whole square. And they only get, they can only attack something that's diagonal from them, the way that pawns do. Now, the goal of this is once the party gets to the other side of the board, they can upgrade their pawn caps into something to resemble one of the other pieces on the board. So you could upgrade the pawn's cap into a knight's helm, a bishop's hat, a rook's parapet, a queen's crown, or a king's regalia. But only one player can choose the king's regalia, and I'm only allowing them to do that because there is no designated king on their side when this begins. And whichever roles those players pick will give them a couple little bonus abilities they'll get to use in the dungeon areas to follow. And at the end of each of their encounters, the party will get the opportunity to either continue to the next round, which is descend deeper into the dungeon, or they can choose to resign. In which case, the dungeon will give them a slightly scaling reward, and then basically release them from it. But once they choose to resign, this particular dungeon that they're in closes, and if they don't complete it all the way down to the last floor, they don't get the best possible rewards for it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But I thought it would be a really fun thing to do, especially because one of my players is an avid chess player, so I thought it'd be funny to build. I thought it'd be fun to build a dungeon that kind of plays to his particular out-of-game knowledge. Because something that I think gets overlooked a lot when people are talking about Dungeons and Dragons, or they're talking about like being a dungeon master, everyone worries about players metagaming what the dungeon master is doing and what the characters or the monsters are. But no one ever considers that part of the dungeon master's job, to a weird extent, is to metagame their players. Knowing who your players are as people informs you as to ways that you can engage them in the game as a character. Because even if their character has no knowledge of a particular thing, the player does. And as long as the player is excited and enthusiastic about it, the character might not be as enthusiastic, but it still creates a really interesting scenario. Like, all in all, it makes for really interesting gameplay if you just play to your players' interests and their strengths. 4, 5, 6, 7, Alright. I always have to do this, going in the other direction. I have the snap to grid turned on for this, which I almost never use because I want this to be exact. Two. Now I just follow the pattern down the rest of the way and we're done. Then I'll add some other little details. Because this little chessboard that's being set up is only one aspect of the room. I still have to design the rest of the room around it, but this chessboard is the centerpiece. Now what inspired this whole thing is like, so I grew up playing a lot of games like Devil May Cry, and in Devil May Cry 3, there is a like weird challenge section that you can do, where you fight, like every so often, you start seeing these like statue monsters that show up in random places, which are called the Damned Chessmen, because each of them are based on actual chess pieces, and they move like chess pieces do. So like the knights move in this weird L shape, the bishops only come forward at you diagonally or move away from you diagonally. The pawns only move straight forward. The queen has very unpredictable movement, you know, that kind of thing. And the idea is that you fight them in a lot of like random places over the course of the game. They appear in hallways and random rooms. But there comes a point where you actually fight like this huge boss battle against them, where you are fighting on a giant chessboard, and there are pieces on both sides that you have to like take account of where they are. And all of them have like these very different attack patterns where like the bishops cast magic at you, and the pawns and knights only melee attack you, but the angles that they melee attack at are very hard to like figure out your positioning for the first time. And the queen basically does whatever she damn well pleases. The rooks fire these massive range attacks that are like gigantic lasers in a cross shape. So if you're not accounting for where every piece is at all times, you can get like completely throttled in seconds. And my idea was, okay, well, how do I use that same concept but make it a little bit more fair? Like, make it not as backbreaking as that fight actually is. And obviously, how you win that fight is you basically just have to ignore all the other pieces and just beat the king's ass. But the king only becomes vulnerable after a certain amount of other pieces have been destroyed. And then once he hits certain health thresholds, the king basically knocks you back and resummons all of the destroyed pieces. So you have to start again. And when he hits like a critical health threshold, he starts like rapidly summoning more and more of them. So you have to be very careful about how you approach the fight because it's very easy to get stuck there for long periods. Now, as a kid playing that fight for the first time, I had to redo it quite a few times because it's a very difficult fight to do if you don't fully understand or don't want to engage with the mechanics. So my thought was, how do I recreate an encounter like that that's like challenging and interesting and puzzle-like, but in a D&D context? One of the big things that you hear a lot of players complain about online is that D&D's combat is a slog. It can be very exhausting. It gets stale after a couple rounds because initiative is boring. So, I found that one of the easiest ways, or one of the most interesting ways for you to make combat more dynamic and more interesting is, when you're putting together your maps, give your players more environmental details to deal with, so that way they can ask questions and use the environment to their advantage for more than just positioning and hiding their characters. Implement puzzle elements into the fight so the party has alternate conditions to either gain advantages or just outright win the fight. Those are some ways that you can handle that. You can also do another fun thing that you can try and do is you can implement environmental hazards in different ways where you can implement environmental hazards in interesting ways where you make it so that your environmental hazards aren't just hurting your party, but the hazards aren't just helping or harming your party, but rather they are imposing restrictions that both the party and the thing that they're fighting against have to adhere to. Like, in this case, when I'm building this dungeon, when the party decides to engage with it, there are a few things about this that there's a very high probability my party is not going to like. Amongst those things are situations like, hey, on this chessboard, there's nothing for you to hide behind. Like, you have to engage with this on a straightforward basis. And I think that's interesting because, if you have a party like mine, where I think there are occasions where they do tend to overcomplicate things, creating a situation where they have to engage on a level that is just be here in the moment right now and not think too hard about quote-unquote what your options are, I think is a really important thing to have an option to do. Especially if you see that your party occasionally encounters either decision paralysis or just falling into patterns. I'm very big on if I see my group falling into certain patterns, and by that I mean doing the exact same things every time either we play a campaign, or if we're in a campaign, if every time we play a session or a certain kind of thing happens, like a role-play encounter or a combat encounter, if the party is falling into habits where they're doing the exact same things in every fight, as a DM, one of the things that you have to do when your party does that is you can't always reward them for doing the same thing every time, or you need to find creative and interesting ways to make them break those habits. Because the problem is when your party starts developing habits to do these exact same things every single time they're in a certain situation, what that communicates to you as a dungeon master is that your party isn't thinking anymore. They have stagnated. They they're no longer taking certain elements of the game as seriously as they could. And that could be like, maybe they're bored of it, maybe the game's gotten stale, maybe they're just tired that day. There could be a lot of reasons for it. The best case scenario is your party is just comfortable. The best case scenario is that they have found a formula that works for them and now they're just comfortable doing that thing over and over again. The absolute worst case scenario is that your party is bored and is no longer thinking about the things that you put in front of them because they no longer have any respect for the stakes that you're trying to communicate to them are present. They don't feel the stakes anymore. And if that's the case, whichever the case is, you do need to make your party break their habits. That is not to say that this is a method of punishing your play group. That's not what I'm advocating for. What I'm advocating for is if you see that your party is developing habits or developing like patterns that they fall into, they are developing a status quo. You need to disrupt that status quo to remind the party that the game world is alive, that things don't always go the way that they want them to, and that there are stakes to things. And that's not a fun thing. Sometimes you're going to get players who think you're being harsh or you're being a dickhead. But there are ways for you to avoid those particular accusations from players. Primary amongst those things is, hey, if you're going to throw a puzzle or an encounter at your party, make sure that all the tools that they need to infer information about that situation are readily available to them, are in front of them, waiting for them to interact with them. And that's game design fundamentals. Anytime you're going to provide a challenge to the party, the challenge should be challenging them based on skills and abilities that they've already had. Like, alright, I finished assembling this fucking chessboard, so cool. We'll start building the rest of the room in a second. I'm going to take a moment to talk a little bit about, like, technically what's considered video game design fundamentals, but video games and tabletop games design fundamentals are basically the same. So, in gaming fundamentals, when you're talking about, like, boss battles, as an example, a boss battle in a video game exists as a means of challenging your player to test the mechanical skill and reflexes they've been building up to that point, and to test their ability to utilize skills that they've been given or that they've been building since the beginning of the game. That is what a boss battle is supposed to do. It's supposed to challenge your players to utilize everything in the arsenal that you as a designer have helped them build, ideally, up until that point. So, in D&D, it's the exact same thing. A boss battle shouldn't just be a random threat. The boss battle, unless it really is just a random encounter that ends up being a much more problematic thing than you anticipated, boss battles should challenge how much your party has been paying attention up until that point to the story beats, and whether or not they've collected information about the thing or the person they're about to fight. And the fight itself should be a mechanical challenge that challenges everything the players have in their arsenal. And you as a DM, especially if you see that your players have developed a habit, your job as a DM is, in boss battles, to leverage your players' bad habits against them. And that's because you're trying to get the point through to them that, like, hey man, you can't keep doing this. This isn't always going to work. That's part of the reason why, like, for me personally as a DM, I really like using undead. I love using undead as monsters a lot of the time, because undead, generally speaking, are really difficult to deal with because they have a lot of condition and, like, damage immunities and resistances, and they have a lot of weird status effects that they inflict on players. You have abilities like Undead Fortitude to make them more what's the word I'm looking for? More tanky, more resilient against the players. So if your party is really reliant on doing things like grappling your enemies, stunning your enemies, or like things like that, you make them fight monsters that are immune to those kinds of things to make them rethink their approach. And you know, there's a really great book called "These Monsters Know What They're Doing." It was originally by like some writers on DM's Guild, and the concept of that one is that you remember that all the creatures that your players fight against, even if they are not human intelligent creatures, creatures that have like high level intellect, all monsters, all animals have an instinctual way of fighting, hunting, and moving and dealing with the enemy. So that way, it never feels like your party necessarily has an advantage over the things that they're fighting. It's that everything they fight fights differently. I really like doing this kind of thing with undead, because undead have... Why am I doing this when I could just do shift? Group. Okay, so now all of these things should be groups. I should be able to move this whole thing. Actually, I clicked 2 of those off. So... What? Okay, now they're all one group, so now I can move the whole board. Fantastic. Now the cool thing is that, just going back to Dungeon Painter, Dungeon Painter works like a lot of digital art programs, so every asset that you add to the board basically creates its own layer, more or less, and you can merge all of them onto one thing, creating a group. You can ungroup them. I'm not going to do that. But now that I've grouped these are all one entity that I can now move as I see fit. And now I'm going to add a little border to it. We're going to go with a stone border. Just for the aesthetic. It's not going to be very clear unless I zoom in, but there is now a border around that. And then what we're going to do, I'm going to take all these walls. I'm going to group those as well, just so that way it all stays as one. Then actually, for all intents and purposes, we're going to group the whole thing. So now, I can grab this and it'll move the walls and the board itself. Also, we have an ad that's about to start in 40 seconds. It's going to be like 3 minutes worth of shit. So while that ad's going, I'm just going to chill out a little bit. I'm going to, you know, have a drink. And I'm going to get some stuff arranged. I'm trying to figure out what the fuck the rest of the floor around this area is going to look like. We'll talk a bit about that when we get back from the ads. Hopefully you guys are enjoying listening to me yap. This is like 99.9% of what these streams are, so... Alright, we are back. Looks like my chat commands are broken, so I'll try and get that fixed between later tonight and tomorrow. I'm gonna do a throw around this. Let's see. The party is underground on an island. What does this area around this thing actually look like? Also, admittedly, I was on the fence about what I was going to do to like illustrate the different chess pieces. Can't even begin to lie to you. I have zero intention of drawing different chess pieces. I'm probably just going to grab some PNGs of like the 2D chess pieces, since it's going to be kind of a top-down view for them anyway. And I'm probably going to design the dungeon like I'm going to use that as the visual representation of the chess pieces for the sake of my sanity. We want good stone floor, I think. I really like this weird, like, mosaic stone tile. Let's go with that. I'm gonna make it just slightly larger. Ooh. This should be on the bottom, but whatever. So let's do that. We'll set it to the bottom. Take these tiles, and we just want to center the chessboard in it. That's not centered. Okay, let's remove this. This looks crooked to me. And it could just be because I'm bad at squares. I don't want to spend a terribly long amount of time fiddling with these tiles. And we have the pathway that the party enters through. Right here. And that's how I'm going to designate that. Alright, now we're going to add some more ones. Oh, that's a line. We're going to go with wood just to give some textural interest to the room. And then we'll go through and we'll add some shadows to these walls as well. And once all these walls are put in, I'll group them. I always forget that the scroll wheel doesn't actually move the piece around. It just zooms in or out. Right. I'm going to take these, we're going to group all the walls together. Into the walls. We go to, actually, go back to root, click on walls, go to effect, apply long shadow, apply middle shadow. And we'll do that. Add a little bit of beveling. Now if we do long shadow, it basically just casts shadows around the actual walls. And if we want to, we can go back. Don't need that. We can go back to layers, and we can actually go to. We can go into, and now I can pick one of these walls, like one set. If I want to, I can edit the shadows that way. But if I was gonna do all that, I may as well just fucking edit all of the wall shadows individually. This also isn't accounting for any like particular light source. But this is also underground, and I haven't put a designated light source in here just yet. I'm not gonna do all that. I'm not editing all these shadows. It's just such a pain in the ass to do. But now we have all of this put together. The party is entering via staircase down. So now I go to objects. Now I have to go find an actual staircase. There's a staircase asset. I have to go find the damn thing. There it is. I'm going to have to flip it. Flip it 180 degrees. And we'll scale it, so that way it actually fills this area. That's too big. Scale it down. Perhaps not this particular staircase. We do thin stairs. If these are the thin stairs, we can kind of double them up. Go back to the 0. This is one of those situations where I actually do have to take off the stick to grid because I can't get this in the space where I want it with stick to grid on. I should have locked the scale on that. No, I don't actually know how big this section is. I just gotta eyeball it a little bit. That looks terrible. Just remove the stairs, we'll start fresh. So I want these stairs to kind of be 2 by 2. Because then I get an overlap in the center. Hello, welcome in. Glad to see you made it. Let me lock the scale. There, now it looks like one solid staircase. So all that this does when you click lock scale, because the scale can be moved, like you can change the size of an object while you're holding it, lock scale literally does exactly what it says. It holds on to the scale, so that way every object of the same type that you make will maintain that size. Because otherwise, as you saw before, if I don't lock the scale, I set a scale, I drop the object, and as soon as the object gets dropped in, it goes back to the original size, and I have to eyeball it, and it ends up coming out uneven. So now we fixed that. So now I can take the stairs and group those together in one object. And you can see, because of how everything's layered, because I have the wall above the stairs, let me just zoom in to display this. Because the wall is above the stairs on this layer section over here, the shadow from this wall falls onto these stairs to kind of give it depth and dimension. I rotated the stairs 180 degrees so that way it looks like they're coming down rather than going up. It still looks kind of wonky, but that's just a quirk of the program. It's not really anything I can do about that. Or there probably is, I just don't know the exact intricacies of it. Been using this program for years. There's a lot of weird shit about it I don't entirely know because I just kind of use it for its functionality. But there are definitely other people out there who probably use it in much more advanced ways. I'm just showing you how to do very simple, basic shit. Let's see. I want to demarcate where, just for my own intents and purposes, let's go to the tokens real quick. No, not tokens. Actually still be in objects. We have these suits of armor. I'm going to use these suits of armor to... Oh god, we have to scale these up quite a bit. There we go. I'm just going to use these as temporary markers for where these pawns are going to be. We can't group the suits of armor together because they do have to move individually. Now, this is the other thing. If you're somebody who runs online games, I don't recommend you do what I do when I'm using Dungeon Painter, which is basically just like, I take my players' markers, I throw them on the board, and I basically just run the game's movement live from Dungeon Painter and have my players tell me where they want me to put them. That's how I tend to use Dungeon Painter. Don't do what I do. Save yourself a little bit of headache. Any maps that you make in Dungeon Painter, you can export as them as PDFs. And if you do that, you can then load these PDF maps into things like Roll20. I just moved it. Right, is it still doing it? So yeah, you can export the maps that are made here as PNGs, JPEGs, or PDFs, whichever file type you use. You can then import them into your tabletop of choice, your virtual tabletop of choice, like Roll20, or personally, I use Owlbear Rodeo. Owlbear Rodeo is pretty cool. The only downside to Owlbear Rodeo is that it does limit you on how many maps you can load in. If you're not a paid user. That is the only thing about Owlbear Rodeo that I don't like. Everything else is perfectly fine. I've never tried to use Roll20, but I know that for a lot of people that's their go-to. So, you know, you can export your maps and use them that way. Frankly, that's probably your better bet. I just do it the way that I do it because it's easier for me. And really, it's just about doing the shit that's easiest for you. So, I've laid out some pawns. Let's see what other fun intrigue we can add to this area. So now this is literally our centerpiece of the room. I'm not going to talk about where I'm putting the exit for the room. Because that's kind of part of the challenge. Let's see. We could put some light sources. Let me see if I can find some good... Ah, there we go. We got some wall torches. No, you're more than welcome to stay. Part of the reason why I even invited you guys, like you and the rest of the party, to come and watch was because I have some mechanics in the game or in this particular dungeon that I wanted to go over with everybody. And seeing as how I don't really have the easiest way to get in contact with everybody else, and I don't want to, like, bother you guys, be like, hey, hop on Discord for a little bit so I can explain this to you. Thank you for redeeming the stretch. So, it was easiest for me to just bring you guys into the stream to talk about it rather than like try and make everybody else make time to like hop on Discord and talk to me about it. But I just had some mechanics that I want to throw out there to just tell you guys as a group, just to make things easier, all things considered. Second, I'm gonna put these torches on the wall here. Just gonna space it. How many fucking spaces apart is that? That's every 5. Let me do 180. Oh, 270. And over here as well. Yeah, generally, as I was saying before, as far as inspiration, so this thing is kind of inspired a little bit by, like, the damned chessman fight from Devil May Cry. It's a little bit inspired by an archetype from Yu-Gi-Oh! Called the Archfiend archetype. Because the Archfiend creatures are basically, they're all fiends, so they're like demon monsters that are named after chess pieces. I think I remember what they're all called. So all of them have Archfiend in the name. But if I recall correctly, it's Vile Pawn, Des Rook, it's like Dread Knight, I believe. Infernal Queen, I don't remember what the bishop's called. Like Dark Bishop, I believe. And then the king is called Terror King. The Archfiend monsters all have like terrible drawback abilities, which is why no one ever played the archetype. The only way to avoid the bad drawbacks of playing those cards was to use their field spell, which is called Pandemonium, which overwrote the negative aspect of the Archfiend monsters, but added some really weird playing, like, gameplay restrictions to the game. It's very bad. And their big, like, draw of playing the deck was that one of the cards in the deck, or in the archetype, was called Checkmate. And Checkmate gave you the ability to basically ignore your opponent's monsters and attack them directly with Terror King Archfiend at the cost of, I think it was like 1,000 life points, and none of the other monsters could attack that turn. It was really shitty. It was a real gimmick archetype. It was just like a thing that a villain used in like one episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! And then was never talked about again. Yeah, 0 out of 10. Would not recommend. But yeah, a lot of the mechanics of this are going to be little mixtures of things from those. And obviously, as somebody who grew up reading the books, it is lightly inspired by the end of the first Harry Potter film, the giant wizard chess match, where with Ron, Harry, and Hermione basically playing as pieces on a giant chessboard. So I have a lot of like weird things that inspired this particular thing, aside from like a conversation with one of my players about how to get another player to interact with it. But yeah, it's a whole thing. So that's a lot of so there's a lot of little inspirations to this kind of thing. Granted, I don't have the nostalgia and attachment to Harry Potter that I know a lot of other people do these days. Part of that just being the fact like, hey, J.K. Rowling's a piece of shit. I shouldn't have to spell that out, but I will for all intents and purposes. And there's also the other part of it where it's like, I've just read better fantasy, I've read better magical school stories since my childhood, so I just don't feel the need to still be connected to it. Like, I know there's been a lot of talk because there's, like, a new show that came out, and I've seen that just, like, ripping, like, online. I've been seeing it, like, just rip people's friend groups apart. Which, like, to one extent, I definitely understand, because it's like, you are so connected to this piece of your nostalgia that you're willing to let it, like, you're willing to engage with a piece of media whose profit is going to be used to oppress people, some of whom may be people in your life that you care about, which I know shouldn't be the angle that you attack that from, but if you don't do it that way, there are just some people who are never going to connect with it, and that really fucking sucks. But it's just very simple. It's the Hogwarts Legacy thing all over again, where it's like, there are people who are so connected to this one very specific period in their life that they're literally willing to, like, spend time and money like, just see the people are willing to, like, spend their time and their money on something that is legitimately being used to harm people. And it's like, you can let go of your nostalgia. You can read magical school fantasy that is literally either on the same level as Harry Potter or better than it. Like, a lot of people don't know it, but there's a book series that was published before Harry Potter, which, beat for beat, in some of its books, is really fucking similar to Harry Potter. It's a scholastic book series called Charlie Bone. Charlie Bone is basically American Harry Potter, like, almost beat for beat the exact same shit. So, like, if you want that exact same type of experience, just go read Charlie Bone. Or if you want a much darker experience, you could go read the Scholomance trilogy by Naomi Novik. I don't remember the author's name for Charlie Bone, because I've only ever read, like, one of the books. It was called Charlie Bone and the Time Twister. I read it in, like, 5th grade. I bought it from a book sale. And literally the entire plot of it was like, hey, what if that Time Turner plot from Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban was just a whole book by itself? That is literally what that book was. Granted, it's not my job to sit here and preach to people about what they should or shouldn't spend their time and money on when it comes to the media that they consume. Because at the end of the day, no matter what I say, people are going to go do what they want to do anyway. But that said, like, you can just let go of Harry Potter. Like, you can let it go. Like, I know that Dimension 20 did, like, a Harry Potter-themed D&D game, like, tabletop RPG, which I've only ever seen clips from because it's all on Dropout, and I'm not paying a subscription fee for anything right now. I just don't have the extra money to be doing shit like that. And don't get me wrong, I think some of the clips that I've seen from it, super cool. The thing that scared me was the fact that Brennan Lee Mulligan describing how his character casts the Killing Curse is one of the most unsettling descriptions of a magical visualization I've ever heard. And, like, you know, I've read the Dresden Files, I've read Harry Potter, I've read fucking Scholomance. Well, I've read the first book of the Scholomance trilogy. Or actually, no. I'm almost done with the second one. I still haven't finished it because I'm terrified that everyone's going to die and I'm going to be very upset. But when Brennan is describing how he casts the Killing Curse, he's describing, like, one of the ways that he describes it is the casting of this spell is the smallest, most efficient effort needed to make a living person into a dead body. That is his prime description of how the spell works. And that by itself, if someone were to describe that spell to Harry like that, would have been a very jarring thing to read, you know, when Goblet of Fire came out. But then when he describes how he casts it, you know, he says, I flick my wand to access that magic. I move to cast my shadow over her, look her in the eyes, and catch her gaze. The lightlessness in my eyes is a silent custodian, flicking off the light, wandering the halls of her mind, flicking all the lights off, one by one, in a fraction of a second, as though putting a house to bed and closing up shop for the night. And it's like, that description is so horrifying and so unsettling to think that, like, in this instant, he is casting a spell that is killing somebody. And in his mind, the visualization for what it looks like to kill a person is literally walking through a house, shutting the lights off. It's that simple. It's that fast. And it got me and a friend of mine into talking about, like, you know, magical visualization, because every magical story that I've read, except for Harry Potter, weirdly enough, goes into excruciating detail about, like, the importance of visualizing your magic. They talk about it in Scholomance, they talk about it in the Dresden Files, it gets talked about a little bit in the Wheel of Time, it gets talked about quite extensively in a lot of, like, magic-based anime. Like, Frieren gets really deep into the weeds of, like, magical visualization. So it's like, you know, maybe one of the things that makes the unforgivable curses so terrifying from a, like, magic system perspective is just how dead fucking easy it is to visualize the act that you are doing. Specifically for the killing curse and the torture curse. For Crucio and Avada Kedavra, the visualization for those two spells is so easy because one of them is just killing somebody and the other one is putting somebody through excruciating mental and physical pain. Both of which you can make the visualization for that happen with just a moment of being mad. Just a single moment of your emotion overtaking you can make those spells so overwhelmingly powerful. And if you were somebody who was just angry and, like, about to commit a crime of passion, if you knew those spells, you could just, like, snap, get angry, flick your wand, and fucking murder somebody. Or put them in enough pain that it hospitalizes them for the rest of their lives. Like Neville's parents. You could do that. And all it would take is a moment of emotional strain to make you do it. Out of the three, the hardest one to imagine, in my opinion, is the Imperious Curse, because you have to put somebody under a compulsion to do something for you, and you need to be able to envision the final result of work that you want done being done by a third party. And, you know, the Imperious Curse can be thrown off if a person has enough willpower. So it's literally a battle of wills from start to finish to even maintain the concentration on that spell, which weirdly makes Imperio the most like a D&D spell. But, like, the other two, it's just like, all you have to do is hate somebody. And when you consider the fact that, like, the Death Eaters are literal magic Nazis, it's so easy to see how these people can maintain concentration on a spell like Crucio for long periods of time, because they're angry, hateful people who see the people that they're exposing this torture to as below them, as not human. So they can maintain this loathful concentration for as long as it takes. And that's a scary thing to consider. And, like, when my friend and I were talking about, like, the Killing Curse specifically, we see the Killing Curse get cast 4 times over the course of 7 books and 8 films. 3 of those times it's cast by name. Those 3 times are when Bartimus Crouch, pretending to be Mad-Eye Moody, casts it on the Camel Spider in the Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom. He literally just abruptly points his wand, says the spell, the spider is dead. Not a single moment's hesitation. Later in that same book, it's cast again by Wormtail against Cedric Diggory when Voldemort says, "Kill the spare." And when Wormtail says it, he says it with not a single with not a moment's hesitation, and with no ceremony, no emotion to it, just a quick, simple Avada Kedavra, and the kid's dead. The only other time that we hear it said is when Voldemort casts it on Harry in the Deathly Hallows, and again, he says it with this cold, calculated precision, like he's looking down his nose at somebody. Every Death Eater that we ever see, and the only other time we see it cast is when Bellatrix Lestrange uses it to kill Sirius. She doesn't cast it by name, but she does it with just a flick of her wand and Sirius is dead. Every time we see that spell cast, it is done with such disrespect for human life and such a lack of empathy, lack of thought for repercussion or consequence, that it's actually fucking terrifying to consider. But if you're somebody who sees the people around you as less than you, it makes perfect sense that that's the attitude you take when you're casting it. And I believe the ad break started. So I'm just going to keep putting these torches down quietly. I'm going to crack my other Arizona. Right now, I have no intention of moving these torches. So, let's put them together. Alright, I think the ads are done. Dang it. Just undid everything I just did. Welcome back. So, oh, it undid the grouping of the torches. Son of a bitch. Let's... Oh, cool. Group all the torches together. Effects. I'm gonna apply a yellow glow with a little orange outer glow turn up the blur a little bit so that way it spreads the light out. You can also turn up or down the alpha. I want the alpha to be higher because I want it to look like they're actually lit. Outer glow, we turn down the blur, turn the alpha down just a little bit. Trying to keep it from seeping through the walls just a bit. Now I'm gonna go to those plot tops. It's still only on together. Don't let me do anything with the actual tiles. I'm trying to create the sense that the room is dark. So I'm experimenting a little bit. So you guys get to watch me experiment with this. Okay, that's a little bit better. Creates a little bit of dinginess to the whole thing. Kind of into it. Now I'll go back to the torches. Now I have to apply their glow again. Root, torch, on top, that's outer flow, wait. That's something I'll have to figure out at a later point. We got some basics put together. But how else to add some intrigue to this room? Let's scroll around in these assets and see what kind of fun things we can find. We don't need to add a fucking Iron Maiden anywhere to the room. Wow. That's way too big. That right there. We're going to put it on the bottom. So 9 times out of 10, if I have a hidden object on a map, especially if I'm going to be using the map live with the party, I will take the hidden object and I'll set it to the bottom of the map. So that way, when the party meets the conditions to reveal it, I can literally just go find that object down at the bottom and then click top to have it pop up so the party can see it. That's my fun way of making the maps a little bit interactive. I want to give the party stuff to investigate around this room. So what I'm going to do is, one of my favorite ways to fill out a room and add random shit, let's put some bookshelves in here. That is that's my secret cap, bookshelves. Okay, so I'm gonna take off stick to grid because I can't make them flush with the wall otherwise. Give the party some bookshelves to investigate because it will give them insight as to how to solve this puzzle. Or at least it'll give them some insight as to how to proceed later. Seems like the most basic chest I could have. So we're going to put the chest over here near where the staircase would be. I'm going to put it to the bottom. Include these little support columns on the corners. It's purely for aesthetic. Whoa, at the halfway point between the other two. So we have some little support columns. Then to welcome our esteemed guests, give them a nice little carpet here at the bottom. Need breeze. I'm filling this up. below the wall. Something the shadow falls on it. Put the columns down. That's purely just layer organization. Don't worry about that. You never know what scrolls and spells and maps may be worth. I will let you know ahead of time that these bookshelves will not have anything like that. But, just like in previous puzzles that the party has encountered, these bookshelves will have some information that will make things clear as to what the party should be doing. And now the cool thing is, when I go to do this next map, because what I can do is, I can save this map right here as it is, and then I can make a copy of it, and basically take each new copy of the map and change some details about the environment, just to make it, what's the word that I'm looking for? More, just to make the process easier on myself, I guess is the best way to put it. So that way, instead of me having to literally go through and do this time over time over time, I can literally just save this map, then edit it, make it look like the next floor below, and change the details that I need to change, save that as a different copy, and then keep moving my way through. The other cool thing about this is that if you export these maps as a PDF, you can choose the size of the map squares, and you can make printable PDFs out of these maps where it will actually denote for you and tell you where the map connects, so you can print them out and have table-sized maps for everything. It's a really cool thing. It's a great feature. I never use it because I don't own a printer, but it's a cool feature to have. It's not so much overlay, it's more or less as the party goes down through this dungeon, the chessboard is going to evolve, and there's going to be more pieces populating it. At least one or two of the floors are going to be set up to just be an out-of-the-book chess puzzle where the party needs to figure out how to win based on the board state that they're presented with. With the final floor literally being an all-out chess game boss battle, where the party basically gets a handful of NPC chess pieces that they're going to command, while other members of the party are actively on the board as pieces, and the goal is basically to establish a state of checkmate and release the board's particular magic in order to turn it into a proper boss fight. I'm still figuring out exactly how many layers there's going to be to this. I feel like it's probably going to be, at most, maybe 4 layers deep. And I have some other assets I need to get for this. And I have a few things that I have to write up as well. Because if anyone who knows me knows I like riddles, I like word games. So basically each layer that the party goes down into, I'm going to present them with a chess puzzle, and I'm going to state what the puzzle's solution is, but I'm going to write it in a very prosy, poetic, riddle-y type way, in order to tell the party exactly what the solution is without telling them what the solution is. And again, part of challenges like this is to challenge the party to get out of their own way to an extent, and to like not overthink shit. But it's going to be a very interesting process. I'm sure. Trying to figure out. I'm going to change the stream overlay for just a second. So I just changed over to a different thing as far as I changed to the be right back screen. I'm not actually going anywhere. I'm just doing that so that way I'm just doing that so that way we don't end up with a with me accidentally somehow doxing myself. So or like showing my name on stream. Yeah. Let me save this. I'm gonna save this really basic map. I did not. I did all of like my overlay, my be right back, my starting soon, and my stream ending screens. These are all from an overlay pack that I got from Stream Elements. I just thought it fit the aesthetic for the kind of thing that I was going for. I don't have the patience to draw overlays. I've tried doing it. It frustrates the fuck out of me. I just don't have the patience to draw overlays. Also, in order to do some of these things, like, I would have to animate all of this. And as much as I want to get into animation, this is not... I don't want to draw all these frames of animation for a be right back screen. That would just frustrate me a little bit. Oh, good. It does let me. Good. I was considering, just for a second, doing a little bit of like pivoting and setting up my stuff to do a little bit of art today while I'm on stream, but that would require me to like set up my capture card, which requires me to unplug a bunch of stuff right now and then plug a bunch of shit back in, and I really don't want to do that, so I'm not going to. So now I have to look up some, like, I think I'll get some information quick to build some chess puzzles. I feel like it's something I should just do off stream instead. Maybe I do. Like, maybe I use the next ad break and just open up my tablet and everything, and just do some art for like the last hour of stream. Because I'll probably do that at like the 2-hour mark. I'll just move over and do some art stuff. Okay, maybe not at the 2-hour mark, because that's like 18 minutes from now, but like next ad break, I'll go to the be right back screen, I'll mute my mic and everything, and I will unplug my microphone, probably my mouse, to plug in my expandable USB bus and get my capture card and everything set up real quick, and we'll do some art for the later end of stream. So for right this second, we could just bullshit. So if anyone has any questions, comments, suggestions, let me know. Also, you weren't here earlier when I said this, but yeah. So as of yesterday, I no longer work for the company I was working for. So I'm back on the job hunt once again, and kind of shitting bricks about it. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not very happy. So in the meantime, I am using the time that I have, basically dedicating my mornings to looking for work, and my evenings will be spent streaming. I guess I'm just gonna throw myself into streaming full time because fuck it, I have nothing but time now. So why not? So anybody, if people subscribe, that'd be cool, be very helpful. Donations through Throne or through Ko-fi are both acceptable if you have the money or just want to. Doesn't really bother me. I do have commissions open on both VGen and Ko-fi for anybody who's interested. I do some not safe for work commissions. I actually just started doing a monthly rotation of your character here templates. So I have the first one on VGen now because Ko-fi won't let me post not safe for work stuff. And anybody who subscribes here. Oh, thank you for the follow. I love me dead 09. Appreciate the follow. So yeah, if anybody subscribes here, because the Twitch subscription is $5, I'll do a little sketch for you as a thank you. On Ko-fi, if you donate $5 or more, I'll do a sketch for you. $5 gets you what the $5 sketch happens to be. If you do $10 or more, I'll do a full body character drawing. Anything above that, it'll basically be based on how much you spend, because it's basically your donation. You get an equivalent, basically, commission slot. I treat it as though you're paying for a commission. So all of that is in effect. I can't officially put that on any of those platforms because they're like, hey, you can't offer people things for donating to you, and I'm like, I'm just trying to give back to the community. So if you subscribe, I'll draw you a thing as a thank you. And then trying to think what else there is. So yeah, I've got all that going on right now. It just is a general thing. Hoping that I can make a little bit of extra cash to make up whatever I might be missing for rent next month, because I've got one full paycheck from my job. I've got one last full paycheck coming in this week, and then a quarter of a paycheck because I worked Sunday, and Sunday is the start of a new work week, so yesterday's work is going to be a separate pay stub. I've already done all of my unemployment paperwork. I did it the day that I got the news, but the state moves very slow when it comes to actually paying the money out. And I've been approved for $170 a week, which after taxes is going to be probably $156 or some change, maybe $140. So I'm fairly certain I'm going to be between the money that I have in my account right now, the paycheck I'm about to receive, the last two paychecks I'm going to get, and if my unemployment hits before the 1st of September, ideally I will have enough to pay rent on the 1st and hopefully my cell phone bill. But after that, I'm kind of up the creek without a paddle unless I find work between now and then. So yeah, I'm kind of just trying to figure out how to buy time. So do with that information what you will. I'm slowly but surely trying to figure out what the fuck I'm actually going to be doing on YouTube, because now I have nothing but time, so I don't really have an excuse to not try and put stuff together. So, yeah, there's all that. I do technically have a Patreon, I just don't have anything on it because I don't know what the fuck to do for Patreon. I was originally going to use Patreon as a way of, like, posting my time-lapse drawings for the not safe for work art that I draw. However, Patreon is really fucking weird, so because I listed myself as 18 plus content, Patreon won't let me post videos. So I can't post my not safe for work time lapses on Patreon. I guess because they're afraid I'm just gonna post porn. I don't fucking know. There's a lot of weird puritanical shit going on when it comes to not safe for work content right now. I've been considering like going to Picardo and trying to stream there and seeing how that goes. But I'm not strictly a not safe for work creator, so it would feel kind of weird to like go out of my way to stream art on a platform where most of the artists are, you know, drawing porn. When that's not my primary thing. So I just haven't really committed to that. So yeah, you know, if you have any ideas, let me know. And you know, if you're somebody else out there who does stream or does stuff like this, and you want to like do like a collaboration at some time, I don't know, hit me up on Blue Sky. Let me know what you're into, what you want to try out. Kind of just looking to do whatever at this point, just kind of diversify the portfolio, as it were. Yeah, that is my whole spiel as far as that's concerned. Let's see, we got the ad break starting in 3 minutes. So I'm gonna pop out here real quick. I'm gonna grab another beverage and I'm gonna start getting my capture card and shit set up. So thanks for your patience. Give me a couple minutes and I'll be back with you folks momentarily. Well, this is really annoying. In the middle of trying to troubleshoot something because my capture card, my capture utility for Elgato is not actually launching. I just uninstalled and reinstalled it, and it's still not actually working. So, just mildly frustrating. Alright, you guys get to get to sit here while I figure out what the problem is. Good thing that I'm figuring this out today and not tomorrow when I'm actually planning to do the art stream. And I really don't want to spend an hour doing this tomorrow. The thing that I'm about to do doesn't work. I'm going to try one more thing, and if that fails, then I'm going to have to end stream and go do some much more in-depth and annoying troubleshooting that, in all honesty, I was not mentally prepared to do today. It's a very upsetting thing for me. Especially if this turns into the kind of thing where I have to do this every fucking time. Yes, rid of it. Go back to their website, pull it up again, delete all the settings. But there's no setting conflicts when I reinstall this shit again. download a previous version and see if that fixes it. I'm just going to go back one version of the Elgato software and see if that works. I'm basically just rolling back to a previous version of the software and seeing if it works. Because right now the current version just straight up isn't opening. It does keep giving me a sound cue, which sounds like there should be an error message, but it's not showing me anything. Basically fucking useless. Because the only thing that could be causing that is either there's something weird going on with the hardware, which would require me to do a restart, which I'm going to restart. I'm just going to stop stream because otherwise I'll have to start everything back up again, and that's just really annoying, actually. The other options are there's something wrong with the configuration file, and because this is like the 4th time I've had to uninstall and reinstall the capture utility, there's a possibility that either in the registry files or in the actual configuration file somewhere there's a conflict between what I have and the previous times it's been installed, and that's causing it to just not launch. Or there's some kind of like corruption happening, either because of like a problem with the data, a problem with like memory restraints, or like just there's a dozen things that could be problematic with it. So I'm starting at the simplest thing and working my way back, which the simplest thing was taking the capture utility, closing it, reopening it, going into task manager, ending the task tree, and then opening it up again and seeing if that worked. Then it was uninstalling and reinstalling the exact version. Now we're trying one version back from the current iteration of the software to see if that fixes the problem. And if that doesn't work, then I have to do some extra shit outside of it. If at any point it gets to a point where I have to start doing registry stuff, we're just not using this capture card anymore. That is that. I just ran this in the capture utility. See if it works. If it doesn't, this has just ruined my day a little bit. Not entirely, but it's definitely frustrated me just a wee bit. Hey, the old version actually opened. Who'd have thought it was that simple? Fantastique.
this night with me. Although it's not the last time, there's a fire inside of me. I wanna burn for you tonight.
Well, I've been talking this whole time and didn't realize that the audio wasn't actually on. So, just to recap, for everything that wasn't captured by the audio, because apparently I didn't pay attention when I did that reset. So, this is the preliminary sketch for one of my players, who doesn't have a portrait yet, my player Ray. So, here's her sketch so far that I've been working on. And I basically just did like sketch in blue, then did the line art in black. And right now I'm basically just going in and adding in a little bit of texture using my sketching brush, because the pencil brush that I use for sketching is from this artist Jazza. It's called the Firm Pencil. I just really like the texture that it has, so I'm going to use it to apply some texture on her gi. Give everyone the information once again. So my player party is a group of pirates, and Ray is their newest addition. She is a gnome genasi hybrid, and is a monk. So I'm drawing her, so I'm just like drawing her character portrait. And what I was saying before was that, I've drawn portraits like this for all the members of the party, with the intention being that they'll start off as just like simple line art portraits like this, that over the course of the game, as more things happen, I will flesh out these portraits and add more color and details to them until they become fully rendered character portraits. And depending on the things the party does, I'll do some alternate sketches of the characters to make into like wanted posters that'll appear in world, because I think that would just be a fun thing to do with them. Plus, it gives me an excuse to draw the characters in like different poses, which I think is always fun. Plus, then we also get to play around with expressions. I also made the comment that like, oh, I gave Ray a bit of a cat face, which is perfectly fine, because the prompt from her player basically said, hey, she has rounded features and big wide eyes. And I don't know, she came out looking very round and cute, which I'm actually very happy about. So I feel like that was the intention. Like, I feel like that was the aesthetic that the player was going for. So hopefully I passed the prompt. I was also given a hex code or a hexadecimal code for color for the character, which for this initial sketch is going to be my background color. I don't have the sample swatch for that color on my iPad, so I'll just add the background color later, and I'll be adding her flower reference as well after the fact, because I don't have the floral reference here on my iPad either, because I wasn't actually planning on drawing today, or at least not on stream. And I don't feel like making you guys watch me go and like look up flower references. So I'm not going to. That said, I think I've reached a logical stopping point on this for right now for stream. We've hit the 3-hour mark. There's supposed to be an ad in 5 minutes. I'm not going to put you guys through another, 6 minutes of ads. That said, Thank you all for coming and hanging out tonight and just, you know, listening to me yap, watching me doodle, dealing with scuff, and, you know, jamming out to my music while I talk to myself because I forgot to fix the microphone. But that said, we'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow's all art, so I'll just be like illustrating some items. Maybe I'll do some more character stuff. And we're also basically doing art for the rest of the week except for Friday. And if you're interested, Thursday I am doing a thing where I'm going to be drawing with chat, where I'm going to let chat decide what we're drawing and, you know, all that happy horse shit. So if you want to participate in that, you want to come like draw along with me, or you want to come give some suggestions for stuff to draw on Thursday, then by all means come by on Thursday and give me some ideas, hang out, talk, ask questions, and yeah, that's basically it. And of course, you know, the usual stuff. If you have any questions or you want to like commission me, you know, on the off chance, I'll just throw those links up in chat real quick. Where the fuck is my damn browser? There it is. Coffee. So that's my Ko-fi commission link. And that's my VGen link. VGen's the best option if you want to do some not safe for work commissioning, or if you just want to see some samples of the not safe for work art, or you know, you just check out my Blue Sky stuff because I post my art there basically all the time. I'll throw that link as well as soon as my browser decides it wants to listen to me. So yeah, so you know, if you have fun or if you just want to hang out and do more stuff and chat and all that happy shit, go right ahead and check out any of those links. My DMs on Blue Sky are also open, so you know, if you're someone else who also streams and you want to do something, hit me up, we can talk about it. If you want to commission me, do the thing. I post my time lapses to YouTube. You'll see those links every so often when I throw them up there. And yeah, once again, thanks for coming and hanging out. Let's see if there's anybody online to raid. That is, let's do that. Because I keep forgetting to actually raid people. So let's go raid someone. Who's online right now? So we got Nick and Friends. No one that I know is streaming right now, which is kind of sad because I would like to be going and raiding somebody that I know. But none of them are online at the moment. So let's go find somebody who's doing something similar. I never changed my actual category to art, but whatever. Let's see what we got going on. You know, find somebody who has a smaller viewer count. That's always fun. Oh, this person's doing some animals. I was looking at who's on. We got somebody here who's got 8 viewers, so let's go there. Oh, I like this idea. Yeah, thank y'all very much. We're gonna go raid Lee Koi. So yeah, take it easy, guys. I keep forgetting that it's like 2 clicks to start the raid. I'm a fool.